Good morning, good afternoon. This is the International Graduate Teacher Education Summit 2021. I'm Professor Dr. Beatriz Lúcia Salvador Bisotto from Unifacvest, Lages, Brazil. And today I'm going to talk about the research culture in time of pandemic. Exactly 1 year ago, we were surprised by the intense transformations caused by the presence of COVID-19 in all regions of the planet. It's impossible not to remember the movie Melancholia by Lars von Trier. It's not yet possible to predict which path the pandemic will take in Brazil. As with academic journals, our articles and forums, annual face-to-face events are all planned well in advance. 2020 events have all been redesigned, as well as some 2021 editions. But our expectation is that scientific production will grow creatively in the coming decades. We cannot predict the changes that may occur in practice and in research, but the debate at this point in time already points to deep revisions in several areas. For example, organizational behavior, leadership in times of crisis are essential, as well as engagement. Work organization, social media marketing, and retail. The online world has boosted consumption by delivery. Humanitarian logistics, behavioral finance, companies, and human rights. Social impact of business, sustainability in a broad sense, and the Sustainable Development Goals, health management, the public-private partnership, to mention just a few areas that make up the complexity of business administration in global times. It looks like the 21st century really started now. Will globalization be reviewed? Will our shuttle around the planet decrease? Will education in business schools be revisited? Although it is distressing, we have many questions and no answer about that future. But at this moment, scientific research is strengthened, which is already encouraging for all of us, professors and researchers. The post-pandemic world will be rebuilt, and we have several initiatives in this direction. Scientific journals in several areas already make calls for articles that deal with this scenario. National and international research centers associate to develop common projects, and funding agencies propose funds for projects. On the one hand, people go through a very painful period. On the other, creative possibilities are open for research on new forms of management. Today's path. Education is one of the sectors that needed to adapt quickly. History of intelligent women. The 4 pillars of lifelong learning. The 4 pillars of a mother's lifelong learning. The 4 pillars of lifelong learning at work. You need to learn on your own. Fast transformation. Greatest good of a country. Concepts of learning. 1 + 1 =. Thank you. Lifelong learning. A 97-year-old woman graduates in law in Brazil, Minas Gerais. I was one of the first to arrive at school, says the student and Bachelor of Law, Chames Salles Rolim. The world and consequently the labor market is undergoing a major change. People spend about 10 years in formal education, considering school and university. And during that period, the main task is to learn and absorb all that these environments have to offer. In general, it's true that formal education and the qualifications resulting from this practice are important and still valued in today's world. The technicist teaching model of the 20th century that still prevails today definitely does not prepare anyone for work and life in the 21st century. With this in mind, the belief that the school is not the only provider of learning, as well as the idea that schooling is just one type of learning among several opportunities to deepen knowledge and develop skills throughout life, begins to be disseminated in society. In this context, the concept of lifelong learning emerges. Lifelong learning cross sectors, promoting learning beyond the traditional school and throughout adult life. To put the concept into practice, the first step is to let go of formal education and recognize that learning is not limited to a person's childhood, adolescence, or early adulthood. It can occur over a lifetime and in a variety of situations. The lifelong learner runs away from the formal module of education. He does not need teaching imposed via tasks, as he is self-motivated to seek the experience that interests him. The four pillars of lifelong learning: learning to know, learning to do, learning to live with, and learn to be. First, it's necessary to learn to know, combining a general culture sufficiently broad with the possibility of studying in depth a small number of subjects. That is, learning to learn to benefit from the opportunities offered by the education throughout life. The four pillars of a mother's lifelong learning: learning to know, the day-to-day life of the son and godchildren and all the routines. Learning to do, the best dish, the best popcorn in the world. Learning to live together and to be, difference in thoughts and scenes of jealousy, mother and godmother, sweet and secure in decisions. Learning to know, learn to interpret crying, whether it's from hunger or pain, breathing, smiling, follow the evolution in its smallest details. Make it very clear that son and godsons are different and each one has a place in the same heart. Learn to do, making the best dish for each of the godchildren and son, ensuring a small space for everyone at the same time. Learning to live together and to be, living with age and behavior difference, knowing how to respect their opinion and value small progress, being sweet and decisive at the necessary times. The four pillars of lifelong learning at work: learning to know, learning to do, and learning to live together and to be. Learning to know, combining a general culture broad enough. Know your colleagues, your limits, your superiors. Interpret a smile, a gesture, perceiving the different changes in the other. Learning to do. It's necessary to learn to do not only the professional field, but in more comprehensive ways, in order to make the person able to face adverse situations and work as a team. Learn to live together and to be. The person needs to understand the interdependencies existing within a project so that in the future he is able to understand the other and manage conflicts, taking into account the values of pluralism. Finally, the individual needs to learn to be, to develop the best possible personality and be able to act with an increasing capacity for autonomy, discernment, and personal responsibility. The way out of not being replaced by a machine certainly will not be found in education that is based on traditional methods, and nowadays, lifelong learning presents itself as the best option for those who want to keep their knowledge and upgraded skills for the new economy. The person will be more prepared for the new world. The more a person learns throughout life, the more he will be able to adapt to the change of the new economy, which requires flexibility and improvisation in unexpected situations. In this context, lifelong learning brings many benefits because, in addition to keeping the professional qualified throughout his career, he will open his mind to new possibilities and his connections and networks will be strengthened, as well as natural skills and other skills for companies. Lifelong learning represents a consistent change in the profile of their employees, Who will become more versatile and adaptable when it comes to performing diverse functions? You need to learn to study for yourself. One, the person will be a better leader. Two, the person will be more satisfied with himself. Three, lifelong learning and entrepreneurial attitude. Four, common barriers of lifelong learner. Five, how to put it all into practice. Well, one, being able to connect with others not only makes a person more interesting, but it also makes them more influential. The greater you differentiate your knowledge base, the more the leader will be able to know his around you, and the greater the stock of solutions available to solve problems and overcome challenges, internal or external. Two, when learning new skills, the person will enjoy the positive feelings that comes from with mastery, and consequently will find herself with a renewed sense of purpose in life when setting goals for her own education. Three, as if it's lagging behind if the investment in itself is not continuous, and with the arrival of the younger generation in the job market, new skills shine in the eyes of employers. Millennials are willing to spend their own money on additional training during their professional career. Four, with the hustle and bustle of everyday life, many people end up using the excuse of not having enough time to not dedicate themselves to studies. However, what many do not know is that with lifelong learning, the person is able to take advantage of the few remaining minutes of their day and fit education as they wish. Five, open online course, traditional educational platforms. In a rapidly evolving society, people need to pursue different careers throughout their lives. The greatest asset of any country is people. We need to take more care of health. Find value in what you are doing. Talk to people. You can learn many things when you have friends outside the same bubble as you live. Lifelong learning. The concept of lifelong learning is impossible to disassociate this concept with the life of a woman, entrepreneur, mother, wife, researcher. Lifelong learning helps us to develop different talents that we already have, as well as helping us to acquire new ones. The impact of this development also affects the person's profession. For example, if we think of a team leader, knowing how to solve problems is essential at work and in personal life. As a woman, we always need to think strategically, not like math. 1 plus 1 equals 11. It's management practice. Education is one of the many sectors in which the rapid virtualization process is taking place. Schools and universities are radically transforming education by switching to online e-learning forms and launching learning management system solutions. Similar processes take place in the area of administration. Thanks. Here you have my contacts, and thank you for the invitation.